Masechta bava basra daf yudalad amar aleph. We're starting from 6 lines from the bottom. Amar Rebbe. Rebbe said, "Ma'isa behiviu lefanenu teira neviim uksubim u'debakim ke'achad." Rebbe brought down that there was a story that they brought before us, a Sefer Torah, which the Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim were connected in one scroll, and he made it kasha. Even though we said that Torah should be separate, and even in the Nevi'im itself, the Sfarim should be separate scrolls. But here they brought before him a Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim all together as one in one scroll, and he said it's kasha. So the Gemara bein chumash lechumash shel Torah, between each chumash and the Torah. Abba Shitin, there are 4 lines between Bereishis, Chumash Bereishis, and Shmos in the Torah. They would make a separation of 4 empty lines before they started Shmos. And you know, Masechta Gittin it brings down. Where do we know the whole meaning of Get? That it's 12 lines in a Get? Because we learn it out from the Chumashim that between each Chumash there were 4 lines that separated between each Chumash. So between Bereishis and Shmos Vayikra is already 8. And Vayikim Bamidra is 12. Between Mabidra and Varim, we don't count because Varim is just a Chazorah. Okay? So they had between each Chumash 4 lines. V'chein bein kol Navi leNavi. So too between the 8 Svarim of Navi, between each Sefer of Navi, it was 4 lines. Navi shel Shnei Masa. When it came to the Navi of Shnei Masa, it was called Shnei Masa because in it had 12. It had the Sheya, Yoel, Amos, Avadja, Yoina, Micha, Nacha, but it goes through, he brings down from the Gemara later on. So anyway, so in those, they only had a separation between each of 3 lines. Sholi Shitin. Umisayim elamata, and he says when they would prepare, the Sefer would prepare, if he would finish the Sefer on the bottom of the Yamid, umaschel, so that on the top you could stop, Melamayla right away. You don't have to leave any lines like you usually leave between each Sefer.
4 lines.
It's the 3 lines by Shnei Masa, or 4 lines between Navi. But if you finished on the bottom, you can immediately start on the top. Tanu Rabbanu. The Rabbanu learned. The Rabbanu learned. One who wants to connect in one scroll the Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim as one. Medabik, like Rab Meir. Rab Meir said you could connect the Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim as one. But at the beginning of before you start writing, you have to leave an empty part of the empty.
Rabbi also said you could do it together, right?
This was you mean the Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. He brought a story with Baitis ben Zunan that he had the Shemona Nevi'im with the Bakim Ke'achad. So we said over there that it was connected as one. We said it went according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that he did it as one, but the Chachamim, the Yeshayimim say, no, it wasn't done as one, it was done separately. But Rabbi Meir was the one that said you could do it as one. And Rabbi Yehuda is the one, the Chachamim said each one has to be B'fnei Yatzmai. Okay, Zak Yigimada over here, at the beginning, before you start writing, you have to leave an empty piece of parchment that should be enough to go around the Eitz Chayim. That's the Kedei Logel. In order to take the klaf and amud and put it around the Eitz Chayim. Ubesayfei, and at the end, Kedei Logel HaHekef. And then once you finish the scroll, you had to have enough empty space that should go around the whole circumference of the scroll. Umisayim, and he says Milamata, then he brings down again what we said before. The Sefer, you would finish at the bottom of the page. Then you could automatically start at the beginning. If he wanted to cut between one sefer and another, to separate the Sefer Nevi'im from the Ksuvim, or the Torah from the Nevi'im, he's allowed to cut it. In fact, my karma, what is he saying? With a Pashta Zach that you're allowed to cut it. Everybody agrees you're allowed to cut it. The shaila is, if you can make it in one scroll. But everybody agrees that you can make it separate. The Gemara says like this: meaning, if he finished it at the end of the Amid, the Sefer, so the new Sefer starts in the beginning, then you could cut it. But what's if you didn't? You finished at the end, and on the top you went down 4 lines. So then you shouldn't cut it. It's a bizayon. Okay, Ramina, in fact, the Gemara Akasha, it says Tchila Sefer, this Sefer, Kedei Logel. It says the beginning of the Sefer, And at the end, you should have enough to wrap around. What do you mean to wrap around what? That the cloth should be empty from any oisias to wrap around. What? If you're talking about that it should be empty enough to go around the Eitz Chaim, kasha, hekef. At the end, you said you need enough to go around the circumference. And if you can say the shir is to go around hekef, the whole circumference, which is much more, it has to go around the whole. You finish the whole Sefer Torah, you roll it up, and then you have to have like a cover of empty cloth that covers it. That's much more empty space that you have to leave to cover the circumference. So kasha. We said abu almud. We said you need enough to only cover the Eitz Chaim. There's a saying. Hey, the Chama steht in Stahl. If the Chama, the word Chama can mean a donkey, and it can mean wine. If it's a Chama in a Stahl, then it's a donkey. If it's on the table, it means wine. Here also, when it says Kidei Logi, you have to know where you're talking about. If it's at the beginning, it's around the Eitz Chaim. If it's at the end, it means at the end of the circumference. Ravashi says, when did we learn that Braisa? B'Sefer Torah, by a Sefer Torah. The Tanya learned in the Braisa. Kol hasvarim niglolim etchilas leseifam. All the svarim was on one stick, and it went around as one scroll around one stick. Sefer Torah niglolim emtzi. A Sefer Torah works differently. There are two Eitz Chaims, and you close it up in the middle. And it says the reason for it is Pashat, it's Ticha de Tzibura. Because you learn from the Sefer Torah, so Mondays and Thursdays, so you finish, so you want to be able to stop there. If you're going to have to, after you finish learning, you roll up the scroll, and then every day you have to start making a Geil sein to the richtige Pasha. You're going to have to start rolling it to the right Pasha. That's why we have two Amudim. And he says, that's how they had written in Yerushalayim. They made the Taka separation with two Eitz Chaims. So you might have told me about you learned Ein Oisen Sefer Torah Loi Arka Yoisa Al HaKefa, but Loi HaKefa Yoisa Al Arka. He says that a Sefer Torah you shouldn't make that the height shouldn't be more than the circumference. You take a measuring tape, go around the circumference, and whatever the circumference is, whatever is the size that goes around the whole Sefer Torah, that's how much exactly the height should be. Why? So Rashi says, this is to beautify the mitzvah. That's yes. So it says the Gemara, and nor should the circumference be more than the height. They should be exactly the same. The height and the circumference should be the same shear. So the Gemara, Sholas Rabbi, Shir Sefer Torah B'Kama. So yes, they asked Rabbi, what's the height, the measurement for the height of the Sefer Torah? Amalahem, B'Gvil. Remember we had Gvil, but B'Negei to the stones that they build. A wall, there's Gvil and Gozis. Gvil is nicht oizgehabet stein. It wasn't worked out. It wasn't smooth. It had protrusions. That's why it was wider. So here, Gvil means nicht kein oizgehabet fell. So the height of a behemoth, they took the whole height. They didn't work it out. The whole height, and they would clean off the hair, and they would write on that side of it where the hair was. So Amalahem B'Gvil, which is the normal way they wrote a Sefer Torah, Shisha, the height was 6 tvachim. B'Klaf was, they took this height, cut it in half, and there was a part that faced the flesh, which was called the sustus, and then they had the part on the top that faced the hair. Okay. So when they split it, there's two halves. One facing the flesh, one is the hair. The one with the hair is called klaf. It's like a klipa over a fruit, Rashi says, like a sholachs, over a fruit. Right? So I'll better say here, that's what klaf means.
But the road inside, not on top of it.
No, so the klaf was on the outside where the hair was, they cleaned it up. That was the outside. You could have the klaf, you could have the sustus, which was closer to the flesh, and right on that. So he says, no, they wrote on the klaf. Good. So the klaf was much thinner than the gvil, because the gvil, they didn't split it in half, it was the whole hide. It's much thicker. So by gvil, he gave you a shear. What was the shear? 6 tvachim high. B'klaf, B'kama, how much is by klaf? Any of these? Says, I don't know, because most of the Sefer Torahs were written on gvil, on the full hide. Nicht kein neues gearbeitet.
It was 6, right?
It was 6 Tvachim high. Rav Huna Kosev, Shivin Sifrei Deiraisa, Lo Yisam Lo Elachad. Rav Huna had written 70 Sifrei Teiras, and he couldn't match up the circumference with the height that it should be exactly, except by one Sefer Teira. Huh? You got it. It's very hard. Rav Achbar, Rav Yaakov Kosev Chad, Mashche de Egli. Rav Achbar, Rav Yaakov wrote one Sefer Teira on the height of a cap. His family, he hit it right on the dot. You remember we spoke about most of the Kfarim, who was it? The Rav, I think, went, and he said, most of the Kfarim, those people that died, he said Shprach, and he saw they died because Ayin Har. So here's one of the cases that it was similar to Ayin Har. Others say no, he was destined to die anyway. He brings down. It's just the Makkah Patish was that they looked at him, and that's how he died. They had to have a sibah for why he died, so that was it when they looked at him. Others, that the way he made it happen, he used the Shem HaFerish, which was wrong. So he's deserving of that. Yes, but it is the grace of the Mashiach Sefer Torah is a bomba, so it goes around. The circumference is very high, so it's so big also.
It's very high. So
High, but it's also fat.
So it's more than 6 Tvachim then.
Yeah, much more, but it's equal to the circumference of the whole rounding. Yeah.
It's equal no matter how high it goes.
Yeah, that's fine, as long as it's equal. Right, correct. Now they know how to work out Sefer Teiros. In the olden times, the Sefer Teiros were so heavy. But today, that you can see a big Sefer Teiros, so it's like light like a feather.
Is it because it's very thin?
No, they have such chemicals that they work it out well. A similar story. Not a similar story. I'm sorry. So it says the Rabbanon said to Rav Hamnuna that Rabbi Abi had written 400 Sifrei Teiros. It's not shaykh. It doesn't make sense. So many Sifrei Teiros through your life, even though 2 lifetimes, you can't write. This is talking about 400 Sifrei Teiros. Yeah, more. Yeah. So this is one guy that wrote it. So he says, Rabbi Hamnuna said, no, it's not shaykh. Dilma Torah Tzibalanu Moshe Kosav. The pasuk of Torah Tzibalanu Moshe Kiddush Yaakov. Look in the thesis on the side. Dilma Torah Tziva. Ve'emer Rabbeinu Tam. They always say pasuk Karui Torah. That pasuk alone is called Torah. Kidiyabe be'pedek gimel de Sukkah, like it says in the 3rd pedek of Sukkah. Kotan hayedei ledaber. The moment the child starts knowing how to speak, the father teaches him Torah. What does it mean, Torah? My Torah? So what does it mean? He wrote 400 times the pasuk Torah Tzivah Moshe. He probably gave it out to the children. They should learn the Torah. The pasuk alain, you know. A similar story with Guzma, like Rabbi said to Rabbi not to Rabbi Yanai, Abba Meir Karmei. He planted 400 vineyards. Dilma, is it possible? It doesn't make sense that he should plant 400 vineyards. Dilma Stein Kizana. Maybe he made 5 little bushes with a tail. Here you have the picture on the bottom, and these 5. So that's the minimum shear of a kerem that you could call a kerem, and maybe this he made 400. A real kerem, a real vineyard, is much bigger. It's not shy that he did 400 of that, but 400 of these 5 little bushes of vines, that he could do 400. Okay, Zog the Gemara. Right, Zog the Gemara. Mason, fact the Gemara Akasha. Oren Sha'asa Meisha. It says that the Oren that Moshe Rabbeinu had made in the Midbar, Amosai v'chetzi ark. It was 2.5 ames in the length. V'ama v'chetzi rachba, in the width was ama v'chetzi. V'ama v'chetzi k'maisei. An am and a half in the height. But ama bas shisha tvachim. When we say ama, we mean 6 tvachim. Okay. So the Gemara like this. V'haluchis orkan shisha v'rachman shisha. The luchis itself was 6 by 6. It was mamish a square, 6 by 6. But Avyan, and the thickness was shloisha, was 3 tvachim. Munachis kineged arkei shalari. What would they do? They would take two luchis in the length of the aron and put them down, one next to each other. So you have 6 and 6 next to each other. Kama luchis eichlis ba'irich aron. So let's see. The eirich aron was how long? The length of the aron was 2.5 amas. Each amma is 6 tvachim. So you have 2 amas is 12. Now another half of 6 is 3, is 15. So now when you place 2 luchis next to each other, you already took 6, and another 6 is 12. How much is left over? 3. Then, so we say 1 tefach was taken away for the wall, a half a tefach and a half a tefach for each side. So it remained 2 tvachim. What did they do with that 2 tvachim? So we're going to learn about it. They put the Sefer Torah that was used on Yom Kippur, on Shnas Hakel. Let's see. Once they placed the luchas next to each other, 6 and 6 is 12, and the length was 15 tvachim, so there's 3 tvachim later. Same tefach, deduct the tefach. Half or a tefach, one on this side of the wall and one and another half on the other. 2 tvachim we had remained. There, and they would put the Sefer Torah after the 2 luchis by the wall. Yeah, it was a small Sefer Torah, and it's not so small. We'll soon see. That's where they place the Sefer Torah. So never like it says in the pasuk, that in the aron there wasn't only. So it's 2 miyutim. There wasn't and only. What do you have to say? If there wasn't, you don't have to say only. Yeah, in the aron there was only. There wasn't in the aron only 2 luchis lying in it in the aron. My ein ba'aron rak. Why is it a double miyut? So the Gemara ein and rak is a double miyut. There wasn't and only miyut achamiyut. So there's a cloud when you have 1 miyut and then another miyut. They miyut achamiyut. Tell the rabbis it's only coming to include there was something. What was it? Sefer Torah shemunach ba'aron, that the Sefer Torah was placed in the aron. Pirnasta says the Gemara, you made the cheshbon beautifully for the length. 2.5 amas, 15 tvachim. You made the whole cheshbon. Say you panis l'aron l'rachmei. Now let's make a cheshbon of the width of the aron. Kama luchis oichlis in the aron, in the width of the aron. How much? So the width, 1.5. How much is 6 and plus 3 is 9 tvachim. Why? So we said it was 6 by 6. It was lying this way in the length, perfect. But did it reach to the other wall? So we say no, it was 6. And now you have 3 left over. So you say you don't really have 3 left over because you have 1 tefach, a half a tefach each one, so you have 2 left over. So that's what we're going to talk about now. So shisha tvachim nishtaydu shom shleisha tvachim. In the width, you took up 6 tvachim, but it was 9 tvachim in the width. So what do we do with the 3 tvachim? Same tefach. Deduct 1 tefach out of the 3. Chetzi l'kaisel, chetzi l'kaisel. Half for this kaisel and half for that kaisel. So now, nishtaydu shom shnei tvachim. So you have now still 2 tvachim left over. Shlo yehei sefer Torah nichnas v'yetzik yishudachet. So that the Sefer Torah shouldn't be placed fakvetch. So you need a tefach on each side to be able to take out the Sefer Torah easily. That's what he brings down. Rashi was saying that, again, like we said before, that it was to use it for Erev Yom Kippur, they used it on Yom Kippur, and on Shnas Hakel. I think it's in the Rashi on the other side. Here it says, the Kodim Ba'azora, Pashas HaMelech B'Hakel, the Kohen Gadol B'Yom HaKippurim. So it was used for those 2 times. So in order to take out the Sefer Torah easily, they need a tefach on each side. Rabbi Yehuda says, Ba'amah, Bas Chamisha Tvachim. I argue. Am is not 6 tvachim, it's 5 tvachim. So it's smaller. So now we have to make the cheshbon. So 2.5 amas. Let's make the cheshbon ourselves now. So it's 5 and 5. It's 10. And then you have a half an amma. So half of 5 is 2.5. So you have 12.5 in the length. Okay. You put down 2 luchis. So you have already 12. You have a half left. Okay. So that's what we have to talk about now. So he says, "Ba'ama bas chamisha, v'aluchis or ken shisha v'rachman shisha." The luchis were wide and it was 6 by 6, and the thickness was 3 tvachim. Munachas ba'ari keshalar. It was placed in the length of the aron because you had 12.5. So Kama luchis hoichlis b'oirich aron. How much space did it take in the length? Shnei maser tvachim. Nishtaya sham chatzi tefach. You still have a half a tefach left. So he said, very simple. Etzba l'kaisel zeh, etzba l'kaisel zeh. 4 thumbs make up a tefach. 6 pinkies make up a tefach. It's the same thing as 4 thumbs. So I just want you to have that in mind. So he says, so the half a tefach was gone because he learned pshat. It was a etzba l'kaisel zeh, etzba l'kaisel zeh. So that took off each wall. Each wall was a quarter of a tefach versus what we said before. Each wall was a half a tefach. Now we're learning it's only a quarter of a tefach. That's what the case is. That's what the case is. It says you made a beautiful cheshbon for the length. Fits perfect. Now let's do the width. The width was amma v'chetzi. Amma is 5, and plus a half amma, a half of 5, 2.5 is 7.5. Okay, let's go now. Says the Gemara, kama luchas hoigdeis ba'arein. So how did it take space in the aron? Shisha tvachim. So how much do you have now left from the 6 out of 7.5? Nishtaya sham tavchomachza. You have 1.5 tvachim left. So what happens? Say ma'am chatzi tefach. Chatzi tefach goes off because etzba u'merza l'kaisel zeh. Here it says u'merza. Etzba u'merza l'kaisel zeh. Here we're talking about the pinky. The pinky was for a pinky. It's 1.5. So that took off the chatzi tefach. So nishtaya sham tefach. Now you have a tefach left. So shabai. Amudin oimdin. Over there they had amudim that was placed in the extra tefach. So he brings down the amudim used as a siman.
And what's the Sefer Torah later?
No, nicht kein Sefer. The Sefer Torah was nicht given. Kriegt sich. It's nicht given in the Aron. They say he argues and he says the Sefer Torah was not in the Aron. And what were these amudim? What did they serve for? So he brings down from Teises amudim elo shimshon l'siman avur b'nei Yisrael sheyam l'Yisrael o meyat. That the Eibishter will, it's a simon that they will be for Loilam Bud, that the Yidden will be for Loilam Bud. The Eibishter won't destroy us even when they sin. Okay, Zog the Yemara. Where do we see that? Never like it says in Shir Hashirim. There's the story that the Plishtim stole the Aron. And when they stole the Aron, they started to have diseases. It was terrible. So they saw they have to get rid of this Aron and send it back. So they stole the Aron, and the Aron was making them sick. So they put two cows, and it saw the calves even, and normally it wouldn't go away. A cow, when it sees its calves, is not going to go away. But when they placed the Aron, and plus the argas, the chest of gold, as a kapara for them, the animals went anyway. So even though they knew their calves, the cows knew their calves are there. So when they saw that it went against nature, they knew that this is the problem in the city, that they're holding the Aron in captive. Right. So here's the story. Apirya means the Aron. The Shlomo HaMelech made it from cedar wood. Amudov, these poles that we were talking about, Asa Kesef, were made out of silver. The Fidos Zav, and the cover of the kapedas over the Aron, the cover which is the kapedas, was made of gold. Merkaveh Agaman, and they also had the curtains, the paroiches, which was a purple wool, the argos, sheshigabay, plishtim yisrael, and the chest full with gold that they sent this to us, to the God from the Yidden. Munich Mitzide was on the side of it was lying on the side of the Aron. Shenever, like it says in the pasuk, "Ulakachtem es Adon Hashem and usatem oisei el ha'agola." And they took the Aron of the Eibishter, they put it in the wagon. There's clay hazav, and also the golden kelim. Asher hashabayim loy oshem tasimu ba'argas b'tzidei b'shilachtem ois v'holach. That they returned it with the argas, with the chest, for a kapora, and this argos was right on the side of the Aron when it was returned to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. But Olav, and about this chest, it says on this chest, Sefer Torah Munach, the Sefer Torah that they used in the Azoratim for the Kohen Gadol, that he used it on Yom Kippur and for Shnas Hakel, that was lying on the chest. Shenever, like it says in the pasuk, they took this Sefer Torah, and they placed it on the side of the Aron. Mitzad, it says. Mitzad umunach. It wasn't inside the aron. It was on the inside. So, v'loi b'seichei. Okay, it's fine. V'loi b'seichei. And not inside, like the words of Rameya. Mani Mekayim. We said that definitely we learned out from the Riboy Achad Riboy. It says Ein Anak. It says Ein Ba'arin Rak. What do you need the two miyutim? So we said L'Rabbeis. What is it coming to include? Shivrei Luchis. So he learns differently. That Zebrachna Luchis were placed under the good Luchis instead of the Sefer Torah. Sha'af Menach Ma'arin. That they, but also the broken Luchis were in the Aron. Zaki, but if he's talking about the Sefer Torah, he kifay shisha tvachim. If you're going to think that the Sefer Torah, you go according to the circumference. So you said the normal Sefer Torah is 6 high, and so that means the hekef around the circumference. In order for the mitzvah to be beautified, it has to be also 6 tvachim. So now kol sheyesh b'akefet, we have the rule. Whatever is in the circumference. Shloisha tefachim, yes bo yiroichav tefach. Then in the width it's a tefach. So if it's 6 tefachim, then it's 2 tefachim in the width. So in fact, the Gemara v'kivan delam tzeisei niglo, and we said, how did a Sefer Torah work? Like the halacha with 2 eitz chayim. So you're right that the width should be, if it's on one scroll, the circumference is 6, then it's 2. But there were 2 eitz chayim, and there was a little space in between. So it takes the space in between, so nafish lemitei tivcha, it's a little bit more than 2 tvachim. And we said there was exactly 2 tvachim left. Nafcha the bein and vein, you needed that a little bit more tvach than 2 tvachim in the space between the 2 eitz chayim. B'tei shuvchi, chushchi, heichi yosef. How were you able to put the Sefer Torah mamish into 2 tvachim if it was a drop more than 2 tvachim, because it had 2 eitz chayim? Rabbi Yaakov, Sefer Azorah, the Sefer Torah that Moshe wrote, it was in the Azorah on Yom Kippur, so that wasn't done with 2 eitz chayim. It was done on one. Litchilasehu niglo. It says it was all on 1 eitz chayim. In fact, you about Bakate Trei b'Trei Heichi Yosef. It's exactly 2. How could you fit 2 into 2? It has to be a drop smaller to go into 2. Avashi, the Korach they put to the Karch Le'el, that they rolled it up, and they left a little bit of space, and they rolled a little bit on top of it. In order to show you the picture, here it is. They rolled it, so it made it a little thinner, and then they made another little roll on the top, so the main roll is thinner than 2, so it fit in. Okay.
This little piece was sitting
on top of it, so it didn't take any space, and it fit in because it was in the width was less than 2, because he used part of rolling it on top, a little rolling on the top of it.
It was hard to take it out of there.
No.
It was so tight. It's hard to take
Oh no! So he made it thinner.
Instead of rolling all the way, you leave a little piece, and you just put it to the other side.
So, okay, yeah. Omer Ravashi. Okay, so we said that. Zokti, what about Rabbi Yehuda, who says that the Sefer Torah that Moshe wrote was placed on the chest next to the other hand. So, in fact, you want to make comment in Leisagas before this chest existed. Sefer Torah Heichav Yosef. Where was the Sefer Torah? Where was the Sefer Torah lying? After you want to dapa hava nothing binay. There was a little board that stuck out of the arei, and it sat on that board above the sticks that held the arei. There was a board on top on one side where the Sefer Torah sat. Dapa hava nothing binay. Yosef Eluya Sefer Torah. On that the Sefer Torah sat. Rab Meir. On Rab Meir, we could ask, hi, this that it says in the pasuk, L'koich Sefer Torah hazev something mitzad arei. It says the Sefer Torah was on the outside, on the side, and Rab Meir says it was on the inside of the arei. So what does he do with this word on the mitzad? The mitnach le mitzad. He wanted to tell you that the Sefer Torah could have been placed between the 2 lochis in the middle. So he tells you, no, the 2 lochis were next to each other. And the Sefer Torah was put on the tzad, all the way on the side, next to the wall. Zakti Yamada.
Inside or outside?
Inside. So what does mitzad mean? So you have 2 luchis, so you can put the Sefer Torah in between the 2 luchis, or you put the two luchis together and you put it on the side of the two luchis. So he says that's what mitzad means. It wasn't placed loy mitnach beini luchi. It was not placed between the luchis. Uloilam begavei, really it was placed inside the aring, but minatzad it was on the side. After the two luchis were lying next to each other, he put the sefer on the side. We have Meir. According to Rabbi Meir, amudim hichave kaimai. You remember we said, Rabbi Yehuda said that there was 5 tvachim and 7.5 tvachim in the width. So what did they put in that extra 1 tefach? The 2 amudim, which resemble that the Yidden will be lo'ilam bad. Even when the Yidden will sin, the Eibishter will never destroy them. Where was those 2 amudim? Where were they placed? Hichave kaimai. That was placed on the outside of the oven. So Rabbi Meir, who says, Ein ba'arin rak, the 2 miutim, teaches us that the shivrei haluchis were placed in the oven, right? Like Rabbi Yehuda. So the Sefer Torah. So what is the Ein and the rak coming to tell us? That the shivrei haluchis were placed in the oven. So the Sefer Torah that Moshe wrote was I'm sorry, and the Shivya Haluchas the Menachem Me'arim Menalei. Again, Rabbi Meir learns Ein Bar Rak Shnei Luchis. So he says it wrong. Rabbi Meir says it taught us that the Sefer Torah was inside the Aring.
No, he said Rabbi said it was on the side, no? Rabbi Meir,
No, that was only the poles. No, the amudim. But the Sefer Torah was inside the Arei, minatzad, from the side. So where were the Shivri Haluchis? Everybody agrees it was in the Arei. How does he know that it was in the Arei? And you want to nafkele min de Rav Huna. He learns it out from the Drasha of Rav Huna. Rav Huna had said, Ma'idach said, what is this that it says in the pasuk? Es Aaron Elohim Asher Nika Shem. The Aaron of Hashem, which is called Shem. Shem Hashem Tzvakis. It says the Shem Hashem who rules, the Krubim are sitting on him, so it says twice the word Shem. It didn't have to say twice, Shem and Shem Hashem Tzvakis. Melamed Sheluchis v'Shivrei Leluchis Menach Marin comes to teach us that the Luchis and the broken Luchis were in the Aron. That's how we know the Shivrei Luchis were in the Aron. In fact, so Rabbi Yehuda, who learns out from Ein and Rak that the Shivrei Haluchis was in the Aron. So what does he learn out from Shem? Says he needs it like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. That Rabbi Yochanan had said in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Melamed Sha'ashem L'chol Kinuyim Munach Ba'aretz. He's come to tell you that there were 70 shemas with the Kinuyim that was written on parchment that they placed in the Aron. That's why it says Shem. That even inside the Aron. That's it. Says the Gemara B'Yidach. Where does Rabbi Meir know that the shemas were placed in the Aron? He says, Namin min ba'yalei hachi. He also needs the Shem to tell you that they put the 70 shemas in the Aron. Says the Gemara Inachanami. You're right. From Shem, everybody will agree. We learn out that the 70 shemas were placed in the Aron. Ella Shivrei Luches the Menach Me'arein Minale. So where Taka does he know that the broken luchas were placed in the Aron? Okay, if Rabbi Meir is made that Shem is for the shemas, so where does he know that the Shivrei Luchas were placed in the Aron? Says Gemara Nafkele. He learns it out in the Tani Rabbi Yosef from the Brayser which Rabbi Yosef had learned. The Tani Rabbi Yosef learned from the Brayser. It says HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, "Va'echtev al haluchos es hadvarim asher al haluchos harishonim." Write on the new luchos exactly the same words that were on the first luchos. Write on the second luchos what the exact words that were on the first luchos. But then it says extra words. Asher shibarta, that you broke. V'samtem ba'aring. What do you have to say? Asher shibarta. So it says the Gemara Melamed Shaluchas B'Shivrei Haluchas Menachem Ba'aron. That's where he learns from this extra word Asher shibarta. He learns that the broken luchos were also placed in the Aron.
Right the way it is.
Yeah. V'hidach. The other Tani of Yehuda. What does he learn now from Asher shibarta? What do you need it for? So the Gemara he needs it like Reish Lakish. Not Reish Lakish. Asher shibarta. He says the word Asher shibarta is Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Moshe. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Moshe Yesher Koichacha. Ich bin maskim mit dir. The Eibishter Masmi when Sheshibata Evdem was at Zbroch Neluchis, and this that he broke the Luchis. So the Rebbe says by Lel Simchas Torah, the emphasis is not on the Yashakoyach, the Chiddush is Sheshibarta. While Moshe Rabbeinu was a Rei Yisrael, and the Luchis was his Etzem. But he saw that he wanted to prove to the Yidden, and he showed Hashem that the Neshamis from Yisrael zijn Hecher. The Neshamis the Yidden zijn Yisrael Kadma L'Teira. And he wanted to show the Yidden, he wanted to prove to the Yidden, I don't care, I'll let the Luchis go, forget about me. Yisrael is Kadma L'Teira, you have a connection without the Luchis. Because what was the sin of the Egel? They thought you need a physical thing. Egel! And that's our connection to our God. So Moshe wanted to say, you don't need nothing physical to connect with the Eibishter. He says, the Luchis, Shibarta, look, why? Because you saw Kadmulated, they have an inner connection. Okay, Tana Rabbanim in the land. Sidran of the Shalmeviyim, Yeshua, Veshaitim, Shmuel, Malachim, Yirmiyah, V'chaskel, Yeshayu, Shneim, Asa. This was the order. Sagt die Gemara, Mechti, lass mal gucken. Hosea Kodim. Hosea goes before Yirmiyah. The Chsiv Tchilas Diba Hashem Hosea. It says first, Hashem had spoken to Hosea first. And the first Navi that Hashem spoke to was Hosea. In fact, Gemara Bechim Hosea. Diba Hashem Tchilas. The first Navi that the Eibishter spoke with is Hosea. First of Moshe. And there were many Nevi'im before Yeshaya that the Eibishter had spoken. So how do you say Yeshaya was the first one? Rabbi Yochanan said, in that Zman, when Uziyo, Yosam, and Ochaz, and Chizkiyo, when they were kings in that time, who did the Eibishter speak to first? Yeshaya. The Elohein, Yeshaya first, then Yeshaya, and Omei Samicha. In fact, you might let Hosea be first. So why do you put him? Hosea should have been before Yirmiyah. So the Gemara, so it says the Gemara, given the Kisiv, Nevuah Segam, Agabe Chage, Ischayo Malachi, since his Nevuah was recorded together with the Nevi'im of Chage, Ischayo Malachi. The Chag is Chag Malachi Seif Nevi'im Havu Choshev LeBa'adayel. So he says, Chag is Chayim and Malachi, they were by Bayis Sheni, and that's when it was recorded, and that's when they recorded Hosea also. Choshev LeBa'adayel. That's why the Nevuos of Hosea was put together with them in the Sefer of Trei Yasa. So the Gemara let him write the Sefer Hosea as a separate Sefer. And put it before Chag is Chaya. I'm sorry, before Yirmiyah. Yeah, so the Gemara Mechti. I did this since there was so little of the Nevuah and it was a small sefer. Mikis, well, it's following about. That's why we had to put it together with the Shnei Yasa. So the Gemara Mechti. Yeshaya Kodem Yirmiyah V'Cheskel. Yeshaya was before Yirmiyah V'Cheskel, right? So he says like this: Yeshaya was in the time of Melech Uziyo. Yirmiyah was many generations later. He was in the time of Yoshiyo, which was later, much later, and Yecheskel was in the time of Tzidkiyo, which was even later. So L'Katan L'Shaya V'Reisha put Yeshaya before Yirmiyah. And you want to keep on. The Melachim, Seifei Churbana, since the end of Sefer Melachim, which talks about the Churban Beis Hamikdash, the Yirmiyah and Sefer Yirmiyah is Kula Churbana, is a Sefer of only Churban. The Yecheskel Reishi Churbana, Abba B'Sefer Nachamas. At the end, it talks about Nechama, the Geula Asida, and about the future redemption. The Yeshaya Kulim Nechamasa. And the Sefer Yeshayahu talks about only about the Geula Asida. Samchinan Chubana LeChubana. First, Malachim was first. It talks about the end of Churban. So you put Sefer Yirmiyah, which is all Churban. And we're not following the chronological order. Faket, Churban next to Churban, and Nechamasa next to Nechamasa. sagt die Gemara, Sidon shel ksubim rus, v'sefer Tehillim v'iyov u'mishlei kahela shir Hashem ekinis Daniel Megillas Esther Ezra v'divrei hayom. Says you know, man the Amma b'mei Iyov b'yemei Moshe Haya. According to the man the Amma that says Iyov lived in the days of Moshe. L'kadmei le'Iyov b'reishay. Let Iyov be the first one. Why are you putting Rus and Sefer Tehillim before Iyov? And the Gemara Askuli b'Ponasa loy maschalina. Iyov talks about the tragedies, so they didn't want to start off with it.
You want to do it
We started happy. Rus nabi Puranas. Rus is also started off with Puranas, and the Gemara Puranas the Islay Achris. But at the end, David Abel came from Rus. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan Lama Nikashma Rus. Why would she get the name Rus? She yatz mimana David. David came out of her. Sherivo that the Eibishter that satiated was masbiyah like that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu was masbiyah b'shiros b'sishbachis. That the Eibishter was masbiyah with song and praise. Shehizbiyah. He David HaMelech was had filled Hashem with songs and praises. In fact, you want to Mikas Savan, who wrote this the Chumash? Moshe Kosav Sifrei. Moshe wrote the Chamisha Torah, Pashas Bilam, and he also wrote Pashas Bilam v'Iyov. That was written by Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeshua Kosav Sifrei, the Sefer Yeshua. Ushmeina Psukim Shabbat Torah, and 8 Psukim after Moshe Rabbeinu had passed away, the last 8 Psukim Yeshua wrote. Shmuel Kosav Sifrei. Shmuel wrote his Sefer. V'shoiftim Rus and Shoifna Rus. David Kosav Sefer Tehillim Ayidei Asar Skedim. David wrote the Sefer Tehillim together with the Asar Skedim, meaning Ayidei Adam Arishay, that which is in the Mizmar and Kuf Lametes. Over there it says Golmi Ro Einacha Hashem. My form is talking about the Adam Arishay. Ayidei Malki Tzedek, like it says Al Divrasi Malki Tzedek, which is Mizmor Kufyud, Kapitel Kufyud. Ayidei Abraham, it says Maskil le'Eis Nazochi. Eis Nazochi was called Abraham. So it was written through Abraham. Ayidei Meisha, we have the Tefillah LeMeisha. Ayidei Haman, he was one of the Levim. Ayidei Yedusim, Ayidei Yosef. These were 3 Nevi'im. Osaf, Haman, and Yedusim were from the Levim that sang in the Beis Hamikdash. So there's from Kapitel Membeis bis Memtes. Yirmiyahu Kosa Sifrei b'Sefer Melachim. Yirmiyahu wrote his own Sefer and Sefer Melachim, and the Kinos. Chizkiyahu v'Siyasei, Chizkiyahu and his Talmidim, Kosu Yeshaya, Mishlei and Shir Hashem v'Keheles. Anshei Knesset Agleila, Kosu Yecheskel u'Shneim Osed Daniel Megillas Esther. So here we have that Yeshayahu. I'm sorry, the Anshei Knesset Agleila wrote Yecheskel Shneim Osed Daniel Megillas Esther, Ezra Kosav Sifrei v'Yachas Al Divrei Yom Ma'at. And Ezra wrote his own sefer and the yichus of the Divrei Hayom until his own yichus.